Thank you so much for joining me for a conversation about Black womanhood in America. Um, right now, it's just so important, and I think we come to this issue um, as Black women. We face this every day, but it's not something that's heavily put in the media or something that is spoken in society every day, and it needs to be. It was Malcom X who said that the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman, the most unprotected person in America is the Black woman, and the most neglected person in America is the Black woman. So tonight's conversation has like 5 main topics that bring us from the issues of the past to the issues of the present in hopes of kind of tackling that very statement. But before we get started, I just want to set like 3 rules to guide us. First, let's protect and respect each other as women. 2, be as free as you want to be in this conversation, but also keep in mind that it's going to be shared after this. And number 3, I'll moderate and mediate, but I know that the conversation will probably jump around from topic to topic. So I welcome that. And if you have any questions after someone else speaks, just go for it. But before we start, can we introduce ourselves? I'll also, as people join, I'll ask them to introduce themselves as well before they speak. But I think that would be a good place to start. But I can start myself. My name is Gabby, for anyone who doesn't know me, and I live in Queens, New York. I am 23, and I am doing this because, like I said at the beginning, it's just so important right now, and I think people don't recognize the power in having a conversation with people and breaking that barrier really can change things, really can put things into motion and give people ideas and inspire people for new opportunities. Anyone want to go next?
So my name is AJ. Hey everyone. I work with Gabby. I'm 25 years old. I live in Brooklyn, New York with my girlfriend and 2 dogs. And I decided to join in on this call because, like Gabby said, it is very important to have this type of conversation, especially because everything that's going on right now, the Black Lives Matter movement, and just that overall Black women are very underappreciated and overlooked. But then again, we're also seen as like the most powerful in like every aspect of, life or in being. So it's, kind of interesting to see how we're so revered in one space and then so torn down in another.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm Ashley. I also work with Gabby. I'm 31, born and raised in Brooklyn. And I felt that it was necessary to join this because, of course, Gabs is an inspiration to us all. She's super strong and always up for the fight. But just in general, like, I feel like it's a great opportunity for us just as women to speak. Like, we do endure a lot as Black women and women of minorities in general, and just women in general, but us especially as Black women, we go through a lot, and it's really unheard and unseen, and we just don't get any type of opportunities to speak on it, or no one speaks on our behalf. So it's like we have to have that responsibility to do it on our own.
Hi, everyone. My name is Destiny. I'm from Albany, New York, 23 years old, and I believe Corey Dobbs went to school with you, Gabby. She kind of sent me your way. Here in Albany, we're about 3 weeks in where I'm kind of the chairperson to starting like a women's initiative here in Albany, trying to let our voices be heard here. Ever since George Floyd passed away, we've been having a lot of protests and marches here that have been very male-led, and it's been ran by a male narrative. So what I'm trying to do with this organization that I'm trying to get rolling on here in Albany is just to make sure that we are here, we are outspoken, we have many different opinions, we have many different ideas that can help make this a little bit more organized. I feel like here in Albany, it's been all over the place. And just let our voices be heard, like pretty much what AJ and Ashley said all the way.
Thank you so much for joining. And Corey actually is best friends with one of my close friends, Kayla, and we went to college together, and then I met Corey. So that's such a small world of connections, but
yes,
awesome. So the first thing that we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit of the history of Black women in civil rights movements. As we know, one of the flaws in our educational system is really that we don't get the acknowledgement, and the education isn't there for us. It really comes out during Black History Month, and you learn some of the same facts every year, and then it just kind of dissipates and goes away, and then it comes back the next year. And even during that month, it is very male focused, because some of the major leaders in the civil rights movements have been men. However, that's another flaw, that's the preconceived notion, and it's not necessarily true. In the last episode of my podcast, I talked about, Harriet Tubman and her influence and her empowerment during slavery to escape and then free other people as well. As a Black woman, that was just so powerful, especially in the years that she did that before the Civil War. And then there's Dorothy Height, who was quoted the godmother of the civil rights movement, because she was, fighting for civil rights from the 1930s on until helping organize the March on Washington in 1963. So she had a lot of influence there. And then we're seeing today that a lot of the different movements that are going on, Black Lives Matter was created by 3 Black women. The Me Too movement was created by Tarana Burke, a Black woman. And then there's so many other things going on in this world that women are stepping up to the bat. And that's something that we see happen a lot. So I just wanted to talk about this subject, and if you guys have any other influential persons or people from history that you can think of, and just discuss, why haven't we learned about these people, but also the power that they brought and the change that they created as well. So Ionia is my cousin, but I'll let her introduce herself a little bit more. And I know she probably has an answer for this first question too, so perfect timing.
Hi, I'm Ionia. I'm Gabby's cousin, like she said. I'm from Jersey, and I'm in graduate school, and I'm not sure what else to say. Yeah, that's definitely an important conversation to have. I remember learning about the civil rights movement, but always talking and focusing on the heroes that we often hear about, like Martin Luther King Jr. But it wasn't until I took a class called The Black Experience in America, where we dig deeper and saw the voices and the unsung heroes of the civil rights movement. And we learned about the female voices that drove a lot of the movements, and a lot of the civil rights era movements that we talk about today, but don't get recognized. So definitely important conversation to have.
Well, I was going to say that I feel like it's something that's not discussed heavily because they don't want us as women, especially as Black women, to give us the acknowledgement of the things that we've overcome and the fights that we've done and the progress that we've made in history in general. So they want to keep that oppressed as one of their supremacy acts, to not let us know what we were capable of doing, what was done before us, because then obviously it's going to give us additional power to make us feel like we have more rights than everyone else, or we can fight better than everyone else. And they don't want that. They want us to keep separating and keep being segregated, even amongst us Black women and Black minorities and everything like that. So I think that's the reason why they didn't teach us that, because it's another way for them to use their oppressive field methods to, keep us down.
That is what it feels like, when you start to learn about these different women and you're really thinking, why wasn't this brought up? And then you realize just how powerful those women were, and it makes you really recognize and notice, oh, I know why they're trying to keep us down by not teaching us about these things and not, giving us recognition for these things.
Hi, I'm Breonna. I am Gabby's cousin. This is my nephew. He keeps coming into the room.
The next topic I wanted to discuss is the racist white feminism movement and the concept of intersectionality. So this term was, well, first, does anyone know what intersectionality means? Okay. So this was first devised and created in 1989 by Kimberly Crenshaw, and she is the woman who founded the Say Her Name campaign that's going on right now. So she defined this term as the concept of recognizing that we're all made up of many different facets. So there's gender, there's race, there's sexuality, class, disabilities, the list goes on, but the approach that we move towards, it can't be one size fits all because we're made up of all of these different things. So for instance, in the 1920s, when the women got the right to vote, it wasn't that all women got the right to vote, it was white women who got that right. And then Black women didn't get that right until 1965. So it's been this kind of issue of white women having always asked Black women to tear themselves in half, erasing their Blackness to focus on their womanhood. And that's just, right now, it's not possible. It's not fair, nor is it effective for people to try and separate those things when it's the very things that make us who we are, and it makes our experiences real and valid and true for what we experience each day. So I just wanted to, further dive into this issue of, why has it always been that we're just women and it's not that we're Black women? I feel like we put so much effort into the woman struggle and the woman movement, but then when it comes back to some sort of issue pointing to our race or our color, it completely changes and all of the support kind of disappears.
I definitely agree. There's so many conversations about even from what I've encountered, people just saying strong Black woman, but strong as in we Black women can get over anything and we don't need the same amount of care that other women need, because that's they kind of give us that strength that's kind of distorted in their perspective of us. And I feel there's so many, so many discussions about feminism that does exclude intersectionality. And I feel it's definitely important to factor in all the different identities that people have, especially Black women, and the different kinds of oppressions we experience, for our gender, for our race, even for our class. I remember taking a feminist class and having all of the readings and all the authors that we discussed just be white females. And the experience that other people were talking about was so different from my experience because I was one of the only Black girls in the class. So the authors that we were talking about would kind of say females are the other, but it wouldn't, the lady who wrote it didn't say anything about Black females. She kind of categorized it as females and Blacks and males, as if Blacks were just its own separate category, not Black male, Black female. So I feel Black women don't get recognized a lot of the time in feminist conversations.
Something else that you brought up to me a couple weeks ago was the author Zora Neale Hurston calling Black women the mules of the world because we carry loads that white men, white women, and Black men refuse to carry. So it really goes back to that idea and the stereotype of being strong, and that, we have to endure more, whether it's in a relationship or a family situation or in the movements that we're fighting, that Black women can just take it all because we're strong, which we are, but it's that stereotype that's been placed on us from the day that we're born, that Black women are going to be able to just take things and keep moving.
And the fact that we've had that stereotype kind of gives us the idea that we have to endure things, that people feel like we can do this to Black women because, oh, they can handle it. Oh, I can't do this to a woman of another race or nationality because, oh, she can't handle it. She won't be able to do it. But a Black woman, yeah, we can give her 40 things to do and she'll get it done because we've become that person that we can do everything. And we usually, we do. We get it done because we have to work 10 times harder than the average person. We have to work 10 times harder than everybody else, 100 times harder than a man. So it's just like we have this thing where we're forced to have, no matter how strong we are or aren't, we have to be strong because we are forced to have that idea and mentality. And we were always brought up that way because we have to work harder. Even if this person is 10 times stupider than I am, does not have the education level that I have, does not have the vocabulary, does not have the brain capacity, I still have to work 10 times harder than them because of my skin color, because I'm a woman, and it's not okay. And it's just something that, like, as women, we've been doing this forever, and it's not okay. Like, yes, we're Black women, yes, we're strong, but that is because that is how we have to be. We don't have a choice to not be that way.
I definitely agree with you, and I even noticed that at work with the different tasks that come on, especially right now with COVID season and just being at home and working from home. The load has increased, and there's times I think that it's because I am a Black woman, and I feel like sometimes even in emails, like I have my picture in my little ID, so when I send an email that goes out as well, even the responses that we get back sometimes, it makes me question, would I get that same response if I was a white woman? Or are you looking at my picture and you're thinking, oh, I can say this because she's a Black woman and she can take it. So I totally think that's something that we have to attack and we have to look at, especially in the workplace.
I definitely agree. At a previous job, I was the youngest Black woman there. There were other Black women there, but they were much older than I am. So they would be like a mother and aunt figure. And oftentimes the supervisor would put a bunch of workload on me because I have the same background as some of these students that were there. Or I tackled so much. I've achieved so much in my lifetime, in my 23 years of living, that I can handle these tasks that honestly, in reality, cannot be accomplished by the deadline they needed done. And I'm just sitting here like, would you suggest for me to do the same thing, or would you have the same tasks required to be done by this deadline if I didn't look the way I did? Because I'm a very humble person, so I never walked in a place like, oh yeah, I did da, and just thought, okay, you better respect me, kind of thing. You give respect, you earn respect. So that was always something in the back of my mind. Like, I feel like mentally from young, I don't even remember the earliest age I can remember, but I always felt like I always have to push harder. Like, me just getting my bachelor's degree is not enough for me. Like, I have to continue to go.
I definitely agree with you, Destiny, and everybody else who spoke previously. Like, the stereotype of, the strong Black woman, it's just really mentally and emotionally draining. Like, it's literally drilled into our heads, like, from the time we're born. Like, we have to endure so much. And especially, like, within relationships, whether it's, like, marriages or, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Like, I've seen, my parents, struggle, go through, their issues. But I also always particularly focus in more on my mother, because, it's not, the perfect marriage and everything that she's endured. And then I see it trickle down to my sisters, and their relationships that they have with their partners and how it's really toxic. And I'm like, why would you stay in a toxic relationship if it's not benefiting you? You know, the back and forth, the arguing, the level of disrespect they get from their partners, and they still stay. And I'm just like, I'm looking back and I'm like, my mother stayed. My mother is staying currently. And I'm like, you know, that really subconsciously trickles down to generation is like, this is what, you know, the best of it, you know, that's it. Like, you can't get no better than that. But then, you know, if you see a white couple or whatever and the man cheats, the woman leaves. You know, they leave. They, you know, even if they have kids, well, we're going to have a custody battle. The children are going to live with me. But I'm not going to stay in a toxic environment. And then I had another point and I forgot. But anyway, yeah, when it comes back, I'll talk again.
To piggyback off of what AJ just said, I feel like that generational trickling, the generational curse of enduring things that you shouldn't have endured, it was really bad back in our parents' days. Like I said, I'm probably the oldest one here, but it trickles down from there. But it's also, they didn't have the opportunities that we have to speak up. Like, yes, my mother went to school, she got her master's degree, but yes, my dad did the dumbest shit any man could ever do, and she stayed with him. But it's just that they didn't have the opportunities that we had. Like, they didn't have that freedom to be like, you know what, I can get up and leave. Because then women were not making as much money as men at. Like, you think it's bad now. Like, back then it was like a 50% margin of like what men and what women made. So it's kind of like, although your parents showed you that, I feel like now it's kind of like we have the opportunity, and I've been doing it a lot lately, like unlearning habits that I was taught by my parents. So that's something that we have to do also as women, is like take accountability. We have to learn to unlearn the things that we were surrounded by growing up. Yes, our grandparents, like my grandparents had kids by the time they were 14 and 15 years old. Like, can we do that now? Hell no, it's not going to work for us. Like, the society we live in, it's not going to work at all. But we just have to really unlearn a lot of things, and that's something that I feel like we have to really, really take accountability for, because I even catch myself doing things and I'm like, this is stupid. This is something that my mom would have done. Like, and I know that it's stupid, but it's just like, oh, well, you know, she did it, so why not? But we're not in that same standard of dating, and we're not in that same standard of work life. Like, the balance is totally different. We have a lot more on our plate than they did. So we can't maneuver the same way that they did. We can't follow in their footsteps to the T, because otherwise we're going to wind up in the dirt.
That actually makes me think of the things I was talking about, like how I always feel like I have to push myself like 10, 15 times harder. And now, like, thinking about it and recollecting like past conversations I had with my mom, she's just like, be better than me, like do better than me. Because honestly, there's things in my life that I wish I would have changed, or I wish I knew what I knew now. I wish I knew then. My mom came to this country when she was 15 years old from Jamaica. So by the time she was 17 years old, she had her own apartment. She was like living on her own, finishing up school, going to start college and things like that. And she's like, not to say you have it easier than me, but don't make it hard for yourself. Understand the paths that you have now and that you can take. Because when I was in your shoes, especially being from a different country, it was so hard for me. And they made it even harder for me because I had an accent, and because my skin color was a bit darker than the next one, or just because I was Black, period.
No, I definitely love this conversation, because even if we think about the media and how it's changed over the years of what we've been exposed to and what we've watched, like when we're little, we watch Black couples and like, I'm not sure if it was AJ or if it was Ashley who said it, but when someone, I think it was AJ, when someone cheats, the Black woman kind of stays and tries to work it out. And then in white stories with white couples, the white woman has enough independence to leave. And then over the years, I've seen that these stories are changing, and that Black women depicted in the media, they're able to leave, they have it all together. But at the same time, they're that strong Black woman who just has it all and can leave and be independent. So it's been very interesting to watch how things are changing and what people, especially kids who are growing up watching these things, what they're going to be exposed to now compared to what we were exposed to then. Hello, welcome to the conversation. Thank you for joining us. If you want to introduce yourself, go for it.
Hey, this is Alicia. I'm joining you from Brooklyn tonight. Working right now, so sorry that I'm a little late, but just happy to be here.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. All right.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about, well, the conversation was moving, but we were talking about intersectionality, and then we discussed the concept of, the strong Black woman, that stereotype that is constantly put over us, and how we're, unlearning things that we've faced in the past, whether it was watching our parents and their relationships, or the things that we were exposed to as well in the media, or even at work, in the workplace. We were talking about different experiences that we've had, and in which, our workload was much stronger and much heavier than other people. And it makes you kind of question, is it because I am a Black woman? Is it because they think that I can just take it and handle it? So that's where we were. I don't know if you have any thing that you want to add to that conversation, Alicia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's so true, that we experience that in all aspects of our lives, whether it's in relationship with our family, our friends, significant others, or in the workplace. I think that we're always expected to take more, even if that means, taking a toll on our mental health or our well-being. Like, for instance, I was talking about how discouraging it is to see the way that Black women are treated who are in positions of power. As I'm working for my boss, she's the first, African-American majority leader of the New York City Council. And in recent weeks, I'm sure everybody knows about what's going on with the budget in New York City. And she has gotten a lot of negative energy from all types of people. And to see her handle that, when there's a lot of other people that could be getting the same flack, but she definitely is getting it disproportionately. And it's interesting to observe that. And I was talking about that with my father, and he's like, well, and I was talking about how discouraging it was, and he's like, well, you just gotta be tougher. You just gotta, get your thicker skin. And I'm like, yeah, like, of course I'm tough, but like, we need to recognize the way that Black women are treated and the way that they're treated disproportionately, and that there is a double standard there. It's not just like, yeah, we can take it because we have been, but should it be like that? I don't think so. That's all I have to say.
Even that statement alone that your dad said, it just really says a lot to other situations that I've been in and experiences. That's always been like one of the first statements. You just have to be tougher. Or even growing up, I was a very emotional kid and girl, and so I cried at like anything. And I definitely recognize the difference between the way my mom would attack the issue compared to my dad. And I think my dad was trying to protect me in the sense of, there's going to be tougher issues, there's going to be harder battles and fights. So you need to toughen your skin now and be strong. But at the same time, thinking back, it's like, I don't know if it was all the time necessary that I had to be just so strong. And I think that's one of the things now that I struggle with, is because sometimes friends will reach out to me and they'll say, you're just so strong. Can I just unload on you? And it's like, no, you can't. You just can't. It's not fair to me. And when I ask to unload on you, sometimes it's not the same response. So it's very interesting to see, and it's really refreshing to talk about with other people. Because I feel like sometimes we keep it all in, trying to just keep moving, but you can't always do that.
I definitely agree with you, Gabby, especially with the sense that, people come to us and be like, you're so strong. Can I tell you, about my whole life story or, my grievances? And I actually had to, check a lot of my friends when, they come to me about their issues. And I'm like, bruh, like, that's a lot. Like, I feel drained after listening and then offering advice to you. And then especially when I don't get that same, invitation back. And then just to go back a little bit to when Ashley said that we have to unlearn these habits, it then trickles down to the next stereotype of us being the angry Black woman because we put our foot down and because, we start, standing up for ourselves and not accepting, things that have been accepted, in our parents' time and our grandparents' time. So it's just really interesting to see how society is not moving with our, I guess, evolution of, how we are, translating or approaching, different issues. So it's just really interesting to see.
In addition to the stereotype of like the whole strong Black woman and you always have the best advice, although I'm going to ask you for your advice, I'm not going to take your advice. Like she said, it really becomes a draining situation. And I've lost a lot of friends, family, and abundance of other things by letting people know that I can't deal with this right now. Like, I have my own things and I want to deal with my own things. I'm not bringing them to you because I need to deal with them. Those are things that I need to deal with. And a lot of people feel like, oh, let me just tell this person so I can feel better, but not realizing that there are some people that when you're telling me these things, they're affecting me probably more or worse than they would have affected you. Because now I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how can I help this person? What can I tell this person to ease their mind? How am I going to be able? And I cut off a lot of people for not realizing that is emotionally, mentally draining. I can't think for you and I can't think for me. And it's like, when do you ever ask me? If you've never asked me, like, hey, how's your day going? Are you okay? But you're constantly burdening me with your problems and your issues and what's going on in your life. I can't, like, that is not okay with me. So yeah, like she said, then we get the stereotype of, oh, you're so angry, you're mean, you're this, you're that. And it's just like, no, I just don't have time for selfish people when I have myself to worry about. Like, I am the most important person to me. And I feel like a lot of us don't realize that. Like, we are the most important person. We try to be like, oh, my mom, my family. No, you are the most important person for you. Because if you can't figure things out for yourself or figure your own life out, how can I help somebody else? What can I tell them about what they're going through or how they should figure out their own lives? And now it's impacting you and you are kind of veering yourself off because you can't figure out your life while you're trying to figure out this person's life. So now it's a collateral damage because everybody's all screwed up in the head trying to figure out about what situation.
Especially with baggage that we might not have. I can't think of the word. I just lost train of the word, but baggage that we've had from either past trauma or childhood trauma, those type of baggage will come to light sooner or later. Because I feel like I still am the person that would sit here and be the listening ear to friends, give advice, and so on and so forth. And it wasn't until recently when I had I feel like I guess the best way to explain it is like I had like a mental breakdown, and I was just so overwhelmed with so much that was going on. And all along, when I turn around, I mean, no one knew, but it was always me that would say, hey, how are you? Are you all right? Just checking in on you, sending like daily affirmations to friends. But like, no one will know because I just don't talk about it. I'm always the open ear, but it doesn't hurt to ask that friend. That's always the strong friend. That's always the friend to hear you out on issues that you may have. And so that's something I'm doing in the process now, just to let my friends know, like, you have to check on your strong friends. And it's me. I'm the strong friend. Like, I'm okay with talking to my parents and my boyfriend sometimes, but it's like, you're supposed to be my friend and I'm always there for you. And I can't really accept the same back because you just don't know. So I'm going to teach you how to do it.
And that's the other thing is that I feel like at a certain age, you have to stop teaching people how to treat you. Like, I shouldn't at 20-something years old have to teach you how to be a friend, how to teach you how to be a parent, how to teach you how to be a coworker. Like, there are certain things that are just socially unacceptable, morally unacceptable, and it's just like, why do I have to teach you? So I kind of let go of that too. Like, if I have to teach you how to be a friend to me, we don't need to be friends. And people get this thing in their head. It's like, oh, you're doing good. You have a good job. You have a boyfriend. You graduated school. You have an education. You have a nice apartment. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, and that's not the case. Like, because these things, those are always materialistic things. Those are things that can mean nothing at the drop of a dime. So education level, all of that, education, work, just your general physical appearance, like all those things are things that can be changed in a heartbeat. So those are things that don't matter. It's literally what's inside and how you feel on the inside. So for people to just automatically assume like, oh, well, you got a good job. Oh, you have good family. Oh, you come from a good family. Oh, your parents do whatever you want for you. That does not mean that I am okay. There are so many other things that can be wrong with me. And people fail to realize that. But because you're a Black woman and you have these things that most Black women do not have, they feel like, oh, okay, so you're good because you got all the things that the rest of the Black women don't have, or that they're struggling to get. So you're good. And that's
right. I'm sorry, just to chime in on that, what you were saying, Ashley, that's so true too, because for me, in my friend group or growing up or whatever, people will look at me and say, oh, she's lucky. She's living in a household with both of her parents. Oh, she's lucky. 23 years old. She got her own thing, her own car, her own place. Oh, she's lucky. And I'm like, you don't understand the burden that I'm going through right now. Like, you don't understand, like, mentally on the outside, it might look good, like all nice, but mentally I'm trying to keep it together. Like, I'm trying to make sure I'm okay first before anything. Cause like Ashley said, it can be gone. It's here for a moment. It won't be here forever.
And also to get to those places, like, and to occupy the spaces, you know, that we weren't necessarily meant to occupy, that can be draining in of itself. And people don't realize that, like, success is not just money or material items. It's also just being one with yourself and being okay in your own space. And it's important that we have people in our lives that do care about our well-being and not just to take those things that are all on the surface as for what's really going on in our lives. So I appreciate you saying everything you just said.
I totally agree. And this conversation is just so good. So thank you guys. That also brings me to this notion that AJ messaged me about, that, you know, Black women are supposed to be the baby makers and can't be as career driven or can't do certain jobs because although we are strong, we aren't strong enough or qualified enough to do the same jobs that men do. So I just wanted to talk about that as well. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that firsthand, either just being turned away from a job or, you know, in the experience of their job, being looked down upon and felt like they were unqualified for something that they knew they were so qualified for.
Well, in high school, there's something that always stands with me, but in high school, I was interning at the Albany County court. So while I was there, it was my second summer there, and this guy, he came in with me for the intern program. And of course, he's Caucasian and he's a male, but I have more experience than him. I was there before. Like, this is not my first rodeo. I have plenty other things that would build me up for this position. So the whole time, at first when I was there the previous summer by myself, they would give me a bunch of tasks. Oh, Destiny, you are so great. You can do blah, blah, blah. I can pretty much give you anything. This summer when he came, it's just like, it was like a switch. They're like, oh no, Destiny, we want you to just sit in on these court cases and just watch how it's being done. Meanwhile, this other guy, he's out actually working with the attorneys, sitting on these meetings and stuff like that. And afterwards, when we would talk, he's like, oh, I didn't really do nothing. Like, I didn't really learn anything. I don't even think I want to go to school for this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, all right, cool. So I spoke to the supervisor and I asked, like, hey, is there a way I can change tasks rather than sitting in and watching these cases go in and out the courtrooms? Can I sit in with some attorneys in the meetings? Oh, no, Destiny. I don't think you're ready for that yet. However, this gentleman, he is, because his uncle is actually the sheriff. So he already knows some of these people. And I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't want to out him out at that minute because I know I'm a passionate person. So I was just going to go hard. So I'm like, all right. But this kid said he's not even interested. He doesn't do anything in these meetings, doesn't participate anything. He's sitting there and just taking it all in because his uncle is a sheriff. Like, I can really benefit all this, especially being a Black woman in the room. Granted, I'll be the only one there, but I can give you some hindsight on what needs to be changed or what should be done differently, things like that. And I'll just never forget that. I'm just like, wow. So, I had to realize too that it's not me. I wasn't the problem. It was their issue. It was them. It was not me. I didn't have an issue. I didn't lack anything. I didn't deserve to be in that room. It was just them having the problem with me being there, I guess.
I think that's something else that we have to unlearn as well, is that sometimes when we're turned down from things, it's not us not having the qualification or the experience, it's the other person not being able to see that or not being able to accept that because of their own preconceived notions. So I think you make a really good point about that, and in the sense of it's not us. And it's so hard to be that one Black person in the room and advocate, for yourself. And I've even faced that at work. I work on a team of like 9 women who are all white, and I'm the only Black person. And we're all women, so it is nice and it feels collective. However, at the same time, I notice when I'm being shut down. I notice the way that certain people talk to me compared to other people. So it really does come back to, all right, how am I going to, move forward with this? And how am I going to, if I don't want to accept it, how am I going to try and create change and let them know that they are wrong?
I definitely agree. Especially with one of the nurses that's on my team, I constantly have to like breathe before I respond to her emails, because the way that she talks is like in a very condescending tone. And I'm like, okay, AJ, don't black on her. You need your job. But, a lot of times I find myself respectfully checking her. Like, I don't care if you're a nurse. I don't care if you're in a higher tax bracket. Like, I don't care about any of that, because at the end of the day, you and I both bleed red. So you and I both should have, the level of respect that you want returned to you. And I feel a lot of people in, executive positions or in these nursing or doctor positions, they feel that they have some type of entitlement when coming to you or, asking you to do things, because, especially in our roles, being office coordinators, we do all the legwork. Like, we literally do all the legwork. And yeah, you want me to get things done, but it's a way that you have to ask me to get them done if you need, urgently or whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, bruh, like, outside of these 4 walls, you don't know me like that. Like, you can't talk to me any kind of way, and I'm not going to tolerate it just because, you have RN in front of your name. Like, that really, titles are just titles at the end of the day. So, and then also just to touch on the fact that, women are seen or have been seen primarily as, just childbearing creatures. Like, I remember growing up, my parents would always, say, oh, I can't wait for you to get a husband and, have how many ever grandchildren for us. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to get married. I want to have some kids. And then just, as I got older, I became more career driven. And now I don't know if I actually want to have kids, and that's okay. And I always, see my mom get like really, I don't know, disappointed or something. Because first, I don't think I'll be marrying a guy. So that's the first thing. And then I don't know if I want to have kids because I'm just so career driven. And now, I want to travel the world and I want to do so many other things. Like, yeah, you can do them with kids, but it's not like kids are a burden, but there's just, something else you have to do before you put yourself first, in a sense. So I'm just like, maybe I don't want to have kids. That's not all I'm good for.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that was being said. To add to it, I feel like it's so ingrained in like part of the Black experience, the Black female experience is just to be underestimated, like right off the bat, and constantly having to prove yourself wrong. Like I've been in so many situations, both in work and in school, where it was like somebody would be so surprised by my effort and my passion for a certain thing. And I remember doing one of my first jobs, doing it well and like working there for like over 2 years, and someone who came onto the job after me, like getting promoted first, even though like I taught that person, like I trained that person, but seeing that person get promoted, it's like a white person. And I feel like that's constant frustration that often gets erased or dismissed in the workforce and in education. And it's just so like when people are so surprised, like, oh, you're so articulate, or oh, you speak so well, as if like you're not supposed to. It's like that racist patriarchal notion that you don't amount to much, that you constantly have to prove yourself in these settings. It's just so annoying to put it lightly. But yeah.
Guys, I can relate to this so much. Actually, the job that I'm in now, I originally was an intern. And one of the first things that the legislative director asked me to do was to do a case brief. And he was like, do you know how to do that? And I was like, yeah, like I've taken a couple, like I was a law and policy minor. So I took a couple like undergrad law classes. And I did it like within an hour and a half. And he called me like right away and he's like, oh my God, like this is actually really good. And I was like, what did you expect it to be bad? Like, so it was like one of those backhanded compliments. And it's just so frustrating because we just constantly have to prove ourselves and it's not the same for everybody else.
Going off of that, this is more like school related than work related. But my major is, I'm an art major, and my last painting professor, she was very, I don't know, I just didn't really, like, she gave me like all the wrong kind of vibes. But she would always allow other, like, we would do a critique over a painting. I knew what I was talking about and like how I wanted to phrase things and different stuff like that. But she would always allow other people, especially during these like Zoom calls, it's kind of hard to get a point out there, especially like when you're in class and other people are talking. And so she would let other people talk over me while I was already talking. And so like, and the other people they're all white people too. And she, like, I would be saying something and then another person would speak up and then she'll be like, okay, there's too many people talking. Let's let Lauren talk for right now. And that was how it always was. So I like, at the end, I just never took that class seriously because I was getting so frustrated. But yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like it is very annoying dealing with that in like work and school and everyday life, like people just like kind of questioning if you know what you're talking about, or if that there are other people who know more than you just because of the way they look or like those like what's the word? I forgot the word for it. But those
Preconceived
stereotypes or something that people be like, oh, this person. Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, that's definitely something that frustrates me a lot.
Every time we do something so well, it's always a surprise, or it always includes that word, oh, this is actually really good, or this is actually like right on point. And it's like, why are we so dismissed from the beginning? Why is it always a back thought that we can't get it done? I experienced this my first couple of weeks at work. My partner, I work in a 2-person office, so she took off for a whole week, and it was like literally maybe the 3rd week that I was there, and so I had to be in the office by myself every day on the phone 9 to 5, just myself, and with the doctor there, with the nurses there, and just trying to balance it all. And by the end of the week, my doctor was like, you're really good. Like, I'm very surprised, but you're really good. It was like, I feel like if she could really hear herself and the way that it came across, would she really say that? It's like, was it necessary that you needed to say that? If you wanted to say that I did a good job, you could have just said, that was great work that you did this week, or we really appreciate what you're doing. It's never that way. It's always, this was actually really good, or the criticism we get is always like 10 times harder or 10 times heavier because we are Black women, and they really don't think that we know what we're doing. And then when we show that we do know what we're doing, it's always such a big surprise. So I think that's something that we're starting to tackle a little bit more in the workforce, in the workplace. I actually had a call a couple weeks, well, it was on Juneteenth, and AJ was there, and we were talking with one of our managers, and she brought up how she knows, the history of my team and how hard they can be on people. And they were saying, do you think some of the responses that you get when you work are because you are a Black woman? And my first thought was, no, it couldn't be that. I really love these people. They're great people at the heart. Sometimes they get on my nerves, but no, it couldn't be that I'm a Black woman. And then I stopped myself from making that excuse, and I said, you know what? It really could be that. I don't want to discount myself and count that out, because that it could be a true statement that because I am a Black woman, that I get treated differently than everyone else on the team, or I get harder criticisms or harder critique and different types of notes on the work that I do because I am a Black woman.
I also feel that it comes down to the fact that it's so shocking that we get things done because we're so underestimated to begin with. So when you do it, it's like, oh, wow, she can really do that. So now it's like, oh, she can do it. So now let me give her 20 more things to do because I know that she's good at this thing. So I know she's going to be able to be good at this thing. So it's like they pile things on it, not only because you are a good worker or you're a good person, but because they want to see you fail. They want you to fail because that's what, especially when it comes to like, just like, damn, we are Black women. And I feel like, yeah, I'm good at my job because I have to be good at my job, because if I'm not, I give you an opportunity to talk down on me or to disrespect me or have something to say about me. So that's what we never want to do. We never want to give them a reason to have anything to say about us. So we always do above and beyond, or as much as we possibly can. But that also comes to the fact that, like, now I know in my office personally, she gives me like, oh, can you do the CC2's work? Oh, they didn't schedule this. Oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And I'm like, no, it's not my job. And I don't care how anyone feels about it, because I'm very well aware of what my job description is. And I'm pretty sure that I know that that is not my job. Direct it to them. The same way you are asking me to do things, you can direct those things to them. Call me angry, call me rude, call me whatever you want, but I know how to do my job and I do it well. So I'm not doing anything that I don't have to do, that I don't want to do just because you feel like, oh yeah, she does what she has to do, so she should do everybody's job because she's the Black girl and I know she can do it. And that's what I feel a lot of the time. And it's like, that may not be the case, but that's how it comes off. Like, oh, you do your job so well, you should do everybody's job.
And I think that has even become a bigger issue with working from home, is just like they see, you know, when you're on your computer and you're getting things done, and they notice that you're getting it done at a quicker pace, or, you know, you've figured out another trick to getting something done. They're like, oh, then we might as well just give you all of this stuff and then they can do the rest of this stuff. And you're like, no, that's not in my description. That's not what I'm being paid for. If you want to pay me more for doing someone else's job, okay, then sure, let's discuss that. But if you're not going to do that, then I'm not going to do this for you. That's not how it goes. And that's where we get these issues of, you know, okay, then let's talk to management, or, you know, and it's like, okay, I will prove my case that you're trying to make me do work that is not my work to do. Yeah.
They like to compensate with compliments. I don't need them. I don't need your compliments. I am well aware of who I am and my capabilities. I don't need your compensation with compliments. I need your compensations in cash. Pay me for my ability. Like, keep your compliments.
I totally feel that. Like, growing up, high school, middle school, compliments were great. They were so nice, good feedback. Now it's like, okay, if I did something wrong, okay, help me learn how to do it right. But if I'm doing something correct and you want me to continue doing it correctly, then be consistent on my pay, and that's it. I don't need compliments that can be taken the wrong way, because many times the way that they come across and the way that they come to you can be very different and very odd. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. Now I want to talk a little bit more about present day, you know, what we're experiencing right now. We are noticing that we are very slow, and by we, I mean society is very slow in mobilizing for the cases and the causes of Black women, both, you know, Black women who have been killed either by police or in homicide situations, or missing persons. That alone, you know, why was it that Breonna Taylor was gone for 2 whole months before we threw the same energy behind her as we did with George Floyd? It just does not make sense. And it's just terrible and horrible on behalf of the media, because I honestly did not know the name Breonna Taylor until maybe beginning of May. And then as soon as, you know, George Floyd was killed and everything else, that's when it really took off and the energy was really there. But it's like, why is it that way all the time? Like, why are we always put on the back burner of any type of civil rights movement or any type of case that deals with the killing of a Black woman?
Because as you stated from the beginning of your story, of this meeting, Black women are the most unprotected of them all. Like, we are the forgotten few, and it's just like, because we are so strong, she's supposed to be able to take care of herself. She can figure that out. Like, what happened to her is like, she should have found a way for that to not happen to her, because she's a Black woman. She's strong. Like, there should have been a way for her to not be minding her business, for her to not be killed. Also, it was just like, there was no video of it, so it's kind of like, it's something that they were able to sweep under the rug until they started to let it out. Whoever leaked it, because that's what it was, a leak. It wasn't something that they wanted us to know about, because at the end of the day, it was just like all wrong. Like, all of these things are so wrong. Even like going to the George Floyd, like, no, it's not like I care about this one particular person, because it's an ongoing situation. But it's just like, why do we have to even have this debate? Why are these people still walking free when these are things done on video? Like, it's out of protocol. The thing with that, I feel like with the police and the system, is that they need to realize that once a police officer or officer of the law breaks law, you are no longer an officer. You automatically become a civilian because you are supposed to uphold these laws and you're not upholding these laws. So if you're not upholding these laws, once you break that law, it's no longer you being protected or someone protecting you. You become a civilian. You went into this woman's house, you kicked her door down. Who was the person that even gave you the warrant when the person you were looking for was under arrest already? Like, how did this slip through the cracks? Like, all of you should have automatically been fired. There's no conversation to be had. There's no, let me see what happened. Like, it's very clear that someone fucked up and didn't do their job from the very beginning. So this whole dragging it and like, oh, well, they're all still walking free and they're all this, it should not be a thing. Like, I don't understand why we have to fight so hard to get justice for shit that is very outright wrong. Like, if I was to go and knock on your door and shoot you in the face, it's wrong automatically. And I can't say, oh, my bad, it wasn't meant for you, it was for somebody else.
Like Tatiana Davis, I believe her name is, I believe the police officers that went into her home and murdered her are still on the force. But when George Floyd was killed, the officer was taken into custody, given all these charges. But for Breonna Taylor, it's just this one officer is fired. Just fired, not even charged, just fired. And it's like, it's just like Ashley was saying, it's just baffling to me. As a Black man, your life still means more. Although we're the same color, we're the same race, but your life means more in a sense because these Black women have yet to get any kind of justice. But George Floyd, there was an officer charged. Officers are being charged. Ahmaud Arbery, not the officers. The men are being charged. Like, it's just baffling, and we're still trying to fight for some kind of justice for Breonna. And this happened how long ago? Like, they're just trying to justify it, it seems like to me. They're trying to justify it for some reason when all the facts are there. Like Ashley said, all the facts are there. We know what happened. You're no longer an officer. You no longer protect and serve the people. You're a civilian as soon as you decided to do what you were doing because you knew you were wrong.
And then what is the purpose of reassigning the other two officers so that they can go and do the same thing and make the same mistake? It just does not make sense. And then the other thing that I've been noticing in media, because I've chosen to be very vocal on social media and people will reach out to me and say how appreciative they are of it, and which is nice, but it's like at the end of the day, I'm doing it so that other people can learn and know what needs to be done. Something I've been noticing is that, I've noticed this for a very long time. Black women go hard for our people. We go hard for our men, we go hard for our women, but Black men, they don't go so hard. And it is really showing and it's really telling. They might go hard for their men and, George Floyd, but with Breonna Taylor, any post that I've seen has been from a woman. Any story, on Instagram that I've seen has been from a woman. It's not the Black men that are speaking up and coming to our fight as well. I don't know if anyone else has seen that too.
Yeah, I have. It's so super frustrating. Like seeing people kind of focus, it's like the conversation will be one-sided. And it's like women are over here dying too, and nobody wants to speak up for them. And I remember like even going to some of the protests in my neighborhood, like it was always about we were there for George Floyd and we were saying his name, but nobody was talking about Breonna Taylor. And nobody was like saying her name. And it was just baffling, but not really, because I feel like this is just like a pattern of women being muted, a Black woman being muted. And I feel like it's like everybody loves Black female styles. Like they love our rhythm, but not our blues. And it's just like, I feel like Black women are so constantly plagiarized and caricaturized, but always muted regardless. And it's like, we're suffering too, and we're lifting you up, but who's lifting us up besides each other?
It's because they want to be us, but not see us. They want us. They want to be us. Like, they wish that they could do the things that we do. They wish that they could have the characteristics that we have. That's why they're buying them at a heavily large rate now. And like, they want to do everything that we do. They want to have everything that we have, except our skin color, because that's where it draws the line. That's where it makes them different from us. That's the only thing that separates them. But they want to look like us. They want to dance like us. They want to sing like us. They want to do their hair like us. But when it comes to speaking up for us, they can't do that because they look like this and we look like this. They can't relate to that. So they feel like, since we can't relate, I don't have a say-so in that because I don't relate to it. I just want to be you, but I don't want to see you. I don't have anything to say about what you go through because I'm dealing with my own issues per se, but those are internal issues because they just aren't happy with who they are. And they want to be what we are, but they can't be. So they look for ways to discredit us and to take our accountability for the things that we've created and the culture that we diversified, and we try to include everyone. And that's something that I've been saying for a while, is that like, there's an issue where we make things, when we do things, it has to include everybody. We have to support everybody. It has to be for inclusive of every race and every nationality and every gender. But when they do things, it is solely for them. They don't have to make a package that has all women color or just a neutral color. They can make a package with a white woman on it and it's okay. But when Honey Pot says, hey, I'm making this for women of color, this is for my brown girls to know they can do these things, all of a sudden it's an issue. But when Tampax made commercials for 30 years of nothing but white women in them, it wasn't an issue.
That's so true. Even here in Albany, this photographer, she predominantly shot white women, white men. There was no kind of any pop of color in there whatsoever. So when the Black Lives Matter movement kind of started curating here in Albany, she want to post up and down, oh, Black Lives Matter. I didn't realize the struggle. I thought this, I didn't know you experienced racism, blah, 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 all types of this mess. And I'm sitting here like, okay, you want to sit here and scream Black Lives Matter and make up all these different posts and whatever else you want to do. So let's put some of these Black women and these Black men in your photography sessions. Let's take photographs of them instead of trying to use Black Lives Matter as a marketing tool and make it seem as though you're an ally. Because honestly, you obviously didn't think that way, because I would have these conversations purposely with people that did not look like me and did not come from the same experience as me to educate, because honestly, you're going to continue that mindset. And obviously the racism is taught. It's a learned behavior. So let's try to change that narrative. So I try to have those discussions with those people. And first thing she said, oh, I didn't know you experienced racism. I didn't think anything of it. I was just taking pictures of people. Like, come on now. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
Going off of that, that's why, I don't know, when I see different work made by particularly Black people, mostly Black women, of like, I don't know, because like being in art school, you see like a lot of like different people's styles and stuff. And I love everybody's work for the most part, but some of the people, it's like their subjects will always be like white people or Asian people or anybody who's not Black. That's so I'm like people even ask me, they're like, why do you mostly paint, or like, because I only paint Black people, and they're like, why do you mostly paint Black women? And at the end of the day, it's like nobody's going to but us. So it's like you really have to, like, nobody's going to really be there and represent us but us, or better than us. So also going off of what Ashley said, I think it is so crazy how non-Black females do want to be us, but they just want to keep their privilege. Like, people will get so much plastic surgery, they'll change their lips, they'll even date Black men, but still hold on to that privilege of like, you know, just doing and being whoever they want to be. And that's why I think it's so crazy too, like, because I saw this article talking about like races, the females that are most desired by men, and at the bottom of the list was Black women. So it was like mostly white people, like white women are desired the most, basically, even by Black people and Asian men, like all the gender or all the races. But that's what's so crazy too. It's like really at the end of the day, it's like nobody's really here for us but us, you know? Yeah, I agree. And it's like nobody wants to talk about how detrimental it is for Black women to seek medical help. Like nobody wants to talk about anything about how like Black women aren't believed when they say that they're in pain. And it's like we'll have those conversations all day, but these like our voices get erased when it's like time to really talk about it. Even I remember reading a memoir by Harriet Jacobs called Incidents of a Slave Girl, and she would talk about how prevalent sexual violence is during slavery. And she said something about how it was so, like, it's such a part of slavery as lynching is, and like women getting raped, but nobody really talked about it, like especially as much as they talked about like the cycle of lynches that occurred. Nobody really talked about all the rapes and sexual violence that occurred that were inflicted onto Black women.
I think on that point, Black women are so fetishized, if that's how you say it, in the sense of, you know, what Ashley and Breonna and Wyonia were saying, and Destiny, that they really do want to be us, other women of other colors, and then, you know, our Black men, our white men, our Asian men, men of all different races, they look at Black women as something to, you know, fantasize about. And it really dates back to slavery. You know, even though we were enduring the same type of inflictions and oppression as Black men, we were given sexual roles. We were given roles in the home where we would go in and work, and we were being raped. And so it really has come to light that it hasn't stopped, and that this is a constant thing. But then when we want to create change, when we want to speak up for ourselves, we are given that label of the angry Black woman. But we get the work done, but we're still angry. We're still so strong and so independent. But, you know, that person, you know, Black women shouldn't be someone that you should make a partner or someone that you should fight for because they can fight for themselves. It shouldn't be that way. And the fact that we're at 2020 and we're still fighting that same battle and having that same conversation about that is so frustrating. But I think that unless we don't stop, you know, hitting it so hard and talking about it, people are just going to keep forgetting it. It's going to be a thought in the back of their minds that this isn't something that needs to be discussed, or this isn't something that exists, when it really is.
Just to piggyback off what you guys said, a thought came to me because me and my girlfriend were literally just talking about this, about how Black women are so, like, they envy us and they're jealous of us, especially predating back to slavery times. The white women despised the Black slaves because we gave their husbands what they couldn't, which was children. A lot of the white women were infertile, so we were raped, and a lot of times the Black female slaves, they had sex with the masters in order to, I don't want to say not for their children or for themselves, not to get like the beatings as bad, but they knew that they would be a little softer towards them if they had their child. There was I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there was this Netflix series called The Underground. It's really good. I think they took it off Netflix, but if you can find it anywhere, you should definitely watch it. And one of the main female slaves, her name was S something with an E. But anyway, she all of her children were the master's children, and those children didn't get the beatings as bad, or they would get pardoned for some things because everyone knew that that was the master's kid. But when it came to the master's wife, she despised the Black female slave because she was able to bear children that she couldn't for her husband.
Breonna said that it's on Hulu now, so I will definitely be checking that out.
Oh, it's lit. Yes, go watch it, please. It's really good. Like, it's a lot of emotional and realistic, depictions in there. So it's very triggering. I will say that it's very triggering.
That's another thing, just like media in general, or like watching something to either learn more about the past or more about the present, I think is just so important right now. And a lot of people that aren't Black are watching our shows right now and watching and learning through our series and through our movies. So I think it's an important time for that, but I really hope and pray that they're learning something, that they're not just doing it for entertainment, that they're realizing that these are real issues that we face every day and real experiences that we go through every single day.
Yeah, and I really hope that they're not watching the movies where there's like a white savior who comes in and saves everything. Like, I hope they're steering clear of those movies, because those are often the movies that are pushed on to audiences.
So my closing question that I want everyone to answer, if possible, just with a few words: what are we asking for next? So can we just go around and share, where do we want to go from here, and what do we think needs to be done?
I think more conversations like this, and not just with Black women, but also with the people that are supposed to be our allies, for them to really listen and to understand. Because, I mean, a lot of times when I tell people the way that things they do or say makes me feel, they're like, oh, really? Like, I didn't know you felt like that, or like just my experiences. And maybe that's true, and maybe that's just their defense mechanism. But I think if we continue to keep the dialogue open, they have no excuse but to listen to us and for us to be heard. So I think these conversations are so important, but to also know that we're not alone.
Yeah, I definitely agree with her. Conversation is, just the beginning point. And I really do thank you, Gabby, for having, this conversation, because this is something that is really needed, amongst Black women and women in general. So, I'm hoping that this opens the eyes of many to, appreciate and to pay closer attention to us, and, not, slip us or push us under the rug like they've have been for so many centuries.
I definitely agree with what you two just said. I also believe educating the generations to come so that we can pass the torch on to them, so that we can try to refrain from what we're experiencing now, what we're going through now. So I believe that us having conversations like this and educating the younger generation, especially the younger Black women that are coming up behind us, can definitely create a big change as well.
I was just going to say, I just feel like I want it to be from here. Hopefully it goes up to where women feel comfortable speaking up and letting it be known how they feel, because like you guys all said, it's kind of like a thing where we shut down and we don't speak up because of what they're going to say about us. Oh, she's angry. Oh, this stereotype, or whatever the case may be. So hopefully from here, it kind of continues to grow, so that way we are comfortable as women speaking up and letting people know how we feel. And like, it just gets bigger and bigger, just because if we keep quiet, obviously nothing's going to happen. Like, nothing's going to change. So the more we speak, the more they would potentially try to help us. The more that we speak up, it's like we stay quiet because we're scared of what they're going to say about us. But they're already saying things about us anyway that we don't like. So what difference does it make? Like, speak up, talk your shit, start your fight, do what you got to do, and just take it for what it is. Because whichever way it goes, it's not going in our favor anyway. So it's no need for us to be quiet about it and let them walk all over us. Just say what you have to say. Hopefully they do start to look at things and say, hey, this is right in front of my face. Let me fix it. What are the investigations and the whole formalities about when things are just like blatantly out there?
Yeah, and I feel like what I want to happen next is to give credit where it's due, you know? Like, Black women are innovators, artists, authors, we're creators, and it's time to recognize us and to appreciate us and see how awesome we are. And I feel like only then, after everyone knows our worth, will we truly feel protected. Me personally, I definitely want for people who aren't Black to just wake up and open their eyes and stop acting so surprised when they hear about, like, you know, our experiences, or like, you know, this happens to every every Black person. Like, everybody gets so surprised when they're like, oh, I didn't know this happens to you too. But and definitely to educate themselves and to stop like making excuses. Like, I have somebody who I'm talking to right now who's who I was telling her about something that happened to me in one of my classes, and she's like, oh, I'm sure this person meant well. I'm like, you know, just stop making excuses for them, and for people to take Black women more seriously and believe them when they say that, like, you know, we can do all of this, you know.
I just wanted to add is that I feel like we have to stop apologizing for other people. We have to stop saying, I'm sorry, when we did not do anything. That is emotionally damaging. That is mentally draining. It happened to me the other day at work where I had an incident with an MD. I reported it to my manager, and she goes, oh, I'm really sorry that you had to do with that. And I told her outright, you should not be apologizing because you did not do anything. He needs to apologize and address his actions. Stop taking accountability. We take a lot of accountability for other people's actions, which is a very toxic trait. Like, I do not take accountability for your actions. You are an adult, you are grown. You should learn how to deal with people, how to handle situations, and not deflect whatever you're going through internally on other people. And I had to tell her, like, hey, no, I don't want your apology. I want you to figure out how to fix this situation, because your apology means nothing to me because you did nothing to me. And like, we take this accountability for other people, and we're like, oh, you know, I apologize. I'm sorry that happened to you on behalf of this person or this company. It's just like, oh, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It's kind of like, I want everyone to be able to take accountability for themselves. Like, no, I shouldn't have to say, I'm sorry because Gabby did something. No, Gabby, oh, you know, I apologize if that happened to you. I'm not apologizing. Sorry that happened, but, you know, I'll let the person know what happened. You know, I'll have them address it. I'm not going to apologize and waste my energy apologizing to you because you're blaming me for something that I had nothing to do with. And yes, it's kind of messed up. It's like, oh, you know, we're a team, blah, blah, blah. But when it's me, there's no team. It's, oh, Ashley did such and such. Gabby did such and such. It's not the team did it. But if it's someone else, it's the team effort. And it's just like, that's not okay. I feel like that's a big issue that it comes down to us. We take accountability and we apologize for a lot of other people's behavior, and we shouldn't have to.
Especially in the workplace. I face this all the time with my team because they're very last minute on getting things done. And so I'm an office coordinator with Ashley and AJ at a cancer hospital, and we are really the front line of communication for our teams and our offices with our doctors. And so when we make a mistake, or when the team makes a mistake, even if it's not us, if it's the nurse, or if it's another coordinator working on the schedule, we get the backlash. We get the phone call from the patient yelling at us, wondering why this didn't go the way it should have. And so, as Ashley said, we apologize for the team's action. Meanwhile, we know exactly who was responsible for it, or what exactly happened. And then when it turns to the point where it's us making the mistake, or it's us, dealing with an issue, the team is always pointing exactly at us. Like she said, it's not a team. It's you who's the issue. It's you that's the problem or made the mistake. So I totally agree. And I struggle with that because I am always the person saying sorry or taking accountability, and I have to stop. I have to hold myself accountable to that to stop it. And I also agree, I think it was Wyonia who spoke about just, knowing your worth. And as we do educate those who are different from us and those coming after us, we have to really push that there's worth in us that dates back to centuries ago of our ancestors, of beautiful Black women who were powerful in their roles and powerful even when they were oppressed. And so I think now we're really digging into different texts and digging into different history that shows us just exactly that. And then lastly, my thing that I'm requesting and I'm calling to action right now is that Black men stand up for Black women. We have had enough. It's become such an issue that Black men are killing us, or they have oppressed us. I'm pretty sure all of us have seen that video of the Black girl who was thrown in a dumpster by Black men. It was just disgusting and just so horrible, and it just makes you want to really cry, and it's just truly upsetting. But I think right now we've seen so many different deaths of Black women by Black men, and we are saying we've had enough of it, and that the tables need to turn in the sense of they need to be fighting for us as well. We fight for them so hard, like so hard. Our movements that we create, many of them started because of a Black man dying. But right now we're saying that we need their support, and I'm really challenging any Black man in my life to learn more, to educate themselves and become an advocate for Black women's rights and Black women's freedom and movements, because we fight so hard for them and we don't see the same fight in return. A lot of Black men, they'll say, oh, I love Black women. I'm going to marry a Black woman. I'm going to protect Black women. I came from a Black woman, so I'm going to make sure they are protected. But it's like, actions have to take place. You can't just say these things and think that your words are just going to make all of the difference. Yes, we accept and we acknowledge and say thank you for those words. We appreciate it. However, that action has to come now. What are you going to do to really make sure that things are different, to make sure that these killings stop, to make sure that people are actually going to jail for the deaths of Black women who did not deserve to die or who did nothing to deserve to die? it's a lot of talk, it's not a lot of action. And I think a lot of people are coming to the point now that action has to take place. And I think that's another thing that I saw with social media at the beginning of, this current racial war that we're in, with George Floyd dying, was that a lot of my, even separate from Black men, a lot of my white friends or friends of other colors and ethnicities and races, they would post things, they would just do things for, the clout, or even just the appearance of being a part of it, with Blackout Tuesday and posting all of the black squares. People really thought that was their escape, that, okay, let me post this so people think that I'm really, in this, and then I don't have to talk about it anymore. I don't have to be a part of it. And it's like, how naive, how ignorant can you really be when you want to call me your friend, but you don't want to understand my experiences, when all that I have grown to know, all of my education, all of the history that I've learned has been the white history of America. When I've learned your experience, I've listened to your experience, I've let you unload on me, and then when it's my turn and when this is really impacting me, you won't do the same. So people really need to wake up that this is really happening, and that if we don't start acting, that we're gonna be done for. Like, things are gonna get really bad really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing I wanted to add to that, that your point reminded me of, is like, for Black men, why do I have to be your mother, your sister, your cousin, your favorite neighbor for you to show up for me? Like, why is it nobody's business when it comes to these tragedies? Like, another thing that I want to see in the future is for everybody to realize that when it comes to these movements, when it comes to our lives and Black lives mattering, we are all each other's business. Like, I don't have to be someone you know personally for you to fight for me when justice is due.
Totally. That's a real thing. It's just like, with the things happening and people just recording them instead of intercepting and interjecting in them, it's kind of like, come on, like, we need you. That is when we need your protection. We don't need you to text me after the fact and ask if I'm okay. Like, I need you, when you see this happening to me, to make sure that you, as a man, you're not saying they're recording it, but you are instead intercepting in it. Like, I get it. Everybody has this notion of like, oh, let me mind my business. But it's also like, you can't mind your business and help me. Like, that doesn't work. You can't help me by minding your business. This is not the time to mind your business or not be involved in certain things, because that's not going to help me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's not a time to mind your business. If you want to be my friend, like, if you want to be my friend, then I need to hear you speak up. I need to see what you're doing. I need to know that you are really there and you really want to see something happen. Otherwise, you can, keep your captions, you can keep your small posts to yourself, and sure, mind your business there. But if you really want to show up for me and my people, and if you really say that you back me, or if you, even the idea of, listening to our music or appropriating our culture, it says that you support Black people, but then when it comes to, the essence of what we really are, and that this is something we live with each day, like, this is our skin. We can't take our skin off at the end of the day. This isn't something we can just put on and take off. Something we live with every day since birth. If that's not something you want to be a part of, then stop being a part of our culture. Stop trying to appreciate us in that form. There's no point of doing that if you don't want to understand us in our true essence and our true beauty and our true form.